Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming today. And for some of you, this is your class time, so I guess you have to be here. I'm Kathleen Adams with Career Services here at the university. And I'm here to introduce our guest speaker today. But first, I want to ask if anybody knows how much the Mega Million jackpot is.
I think it's at 500 million right now.
Oh, is it?
It went up, yeah, because
It's at 500 million, okay. Well, just in case you don't win that 500 million, and I know I won't because I probably won't buy a ticket, you need to be here today to learn about new techniques, new trends for networking. And I just want to tell you my networking experience in meeting or connecting, I just met him today actually, in connecting with John Hill. We have an alumnus, his name is Luke Duncan, and when Luke was a student here, I met with him several times. A very nice gentleman. And he and I connected again last semester. He contacted me. And what I found out is that he worked for LinkedIn, and he was actually located in San Francisco, working for LinkedIn. I asked him if he would be interested in coming back to his alma mater and doing a presentation on LinkedIn. And he asked around within the company, and he told me that John Hill would be the person for me to connect with. And John is actually here in Michigan, but an employee of LinkedIn. And John's title is Higher Education Evangelist, which was a new terminology. Maybe you can explain that a little bit in a moment. I read John's bio on LinkedIn, and I won't go through the whole thing because it was, with all the comments and recommendations, it was probably 4 or 5 pages long. But I just want to read some of the descriptors that people wrote about John Hill. Energy, mentoring, enthusiasm, strong work ethic, expert in strategic planning and social media, multi-dimensional, communication expert, high energy, innovative team planner, visionary, passionate, genuine, again, energetic, magnetic, informative, and entertaining. And I'd like to meet John Hill, and I hope he will be informative and entertaining.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
Wow, that was quite the introduction. So I am John Hill. I'm the Higher Education Evangelist at LinkedIn. Give you an idea of what that title means. It's a very tech-centric thing, very San Francisco Valley type title. It means essentially spokesperson on behalf of a technology company. Any of you familiar with Guy Kawasaki? He works for Apple, wrote a book called Enchanted recently. Great book, if you get a chance to read it. Guy was the original evangelist. Apple decided to make this new name, new title for spokesperson. It was too plain, so they came up with evangelist. And I now replicate that for LinkedIn. I'm the Higher Education Evangelist. We actually have 3 at our company. We have one that works with just companies in general. We have another evangelist who works with communities within information technology, and then myself, I work with higher education. Give you an idea of what I've been doing over the last 6 months or so. I have traveled about 83,000 miles on planes. I have given, I think this is my 79th presentation on behalf of LinkedIn in front of college or university audiences. I've given presentations in 4 countries. I actually have some funny stories that kind of go along with that because you learn some very cultural nuances as you speak in front of audiences. I actually flew in from San Francisco last night. I didn't get home until about 4 in the morning. So I'm popping back up here on very little sleep, but generally operate very well with little sleep. So, but the primary thing that I want to showcase to you today is how social media, specifically LinkedIn, is changing how you find jobs and opportunities, and how you can use relationships to get where you want to go. So how many of you are current students? Pretty much everybody here. How many of you want jobs post-graduation? All right, so I want you to have jobs post-graduation too, and I want to show you how some of the job search has changed. Now, generally, I would say I'm highly interruptible. But they are taping this session so that they can showcase it to other students going on. So save your questions till the end. I'll stay as long as you want, answer whatever questions that you have. Give you a little bit of my background. Don't throw tomatoes at me, but I'm a graduate of Michigan State University, and I was the former director of Alumni Career Services at Michigan State University, which is where I learned how to apply a lot of what I'm going to show you today. About 4 years ago, I realized that LinkedIn was about to be transformative in the job search process. And if you think about it, how have people traditionally found jobs? And if you think from your perspective, generally you went to a website or you went to a company page, saw that they had job listings, you applied for those job listings, sent them your resume electronically, crossed your fingers that somebody would give you a call, and that was kind of the end of the equation, right? That has changed dynamically over the last 5 years, and actually I'm going to showcase where the job search is going in the next 5 years to you as well. But I am curious, by show of hands, how many of you are on LinkedIn? Let me reverse that. How many of you are not? Okay. So for you that are not, very easy to get on, and one of the reasons that I was pushing it to the alumni base that I was working with before is it's free to utilize. It starts with just putting in your name, your email address, your password, and then essentially it's going to take about 2.5 minutes. You're going to put in your work experience, your educational experience, your affiliations, your interests. You'll set up a profile, and that will open up the door for you to start to connect with people within this space. I'm going to jump in LinkedIn real quick, and I'll start showing you some of the things that you'll see. But I'm going to talk very broadly about a couple of themes. One, I'm a big believer that you build your network before you need it, so it's there when you do. And secondarily, let's see. I'm a big believer that you build a quality network, not a quantity network. And I'm going to showcase the types of people that you want to connect with that will create opportunities for you. It starts partly with people who have sat in these seats before, people who graduated from University of Michigan-Dearborn. So I'm going to focus on 4 main areas here. People, jobs, companies, groups. People is where you can slice and dice the 150 million people who have a profile on LinkedIn by a whole number of ways. You can do it by vertical, by discipline, so job type, by company. You can do it by geography. You can do it by connectivity to you. So you can really start to take 150 million people down into a small number of people. Jobs, I'm going to showcase how you can utilize relationships to play off the job opportunities that are available. And I'm going to walk through some scenarios where you can talk with people and connect with them in a way that will open up doors for you. Companies, there are 2.4 million companies on LinkedIn. And the beautiful thing about it is you can see your relationships and the alumni that graduated from the University of Michigan-Dearborn in each one of them. And I'll show you how that works. And then groups. There are 1.2 million groups on LinkedIn, generally categorized in 3 different ways that are important to you. One, corporations, so it'll be like industry-specific things, or say General Motors or General Electric or 3M, companies. You'll see geography, so there'll be groups that are related to, say, Detroit, Chicago, London, San Francisco. And then you're going to see university affiliations. So I know that there are groups that are associated with the University of Michigan-Dearborn. We'll look at what that looks like and how you can interact in that space. But taking a step back, I'm going to show you how I started using this. How many of you have heard of a flip Rolodex? All right, so that's really old school. Flip Rolodex was a way that you used to take business cards and you put it in and you'd by alphabet, put in the names of the people that you had relationships with. It was like very archaic. And so I've always been in outwardly facing positions. Generally, I would get 3,000, 4,000 business cards a year. I got really good at building little cities of business cards on my desk. I would never refer back to it. It was like the most horrific way to try to manage relationships. I went into, they developed these card scanners where you could put business cards in, they'd strip the information out. Started doing that. The problem with that is it didn't always work well, so I didn't get all the information out, and those connections were useless. And then I went into Excel. And so I put all the names of the people that I'd meet into Excel. The problem was people were changing jobs every 2 months, so I'd have to go back in there and like redo them. It was just, not a good way to manage relationships. So LinkedIn became my first foray into using virtual relational management. So this was a way for me to have a virtual Rolodex. And I'm going to take you into what that looks like right up there in contacts. So if I pop up here and I go to connections, you'll see LinkedIn manages all the relationships that I have in a very, very succinct way. So when this pops up, you're going to see the name of the person. How do I refresh on this? I don't usually use a Mac, guys, so. All right, so I have the name of the person, I have their title, I have the company that they work for, the amount of connections, so the amount of relationships they have in LinkedIn. And it's a great way to start to manage information around people that you're connected with too. So how many of you are on Facebook? And that's a silly question because I know the answer is pretty much everybody in the room, right? Think about this as friends. These are all my friends. They're my first level connections, direct connections within LinkedIn. And I'm going to pick on this guy specifically. His name is Boomy. Boomy is a serial entrepreneur. He starts a company like every 6 days. This is one of those people that you want to be connected with because he moves and shakes. And his backstory is phenomenal. His family decided that they wanted to put him through an American school, and he was originally from Nigeria. The whole family moved out to East Lansing, put him through Michigan State University. He got a degree in computer science. Post-graduation, he moved across the street and started building IT companies, and he was hiring Michigan State students. It was kind of like a perfect storm. From a university perspective, he's a good connection, but from a relational standpoint, he's a good friend of mine. Boomy and I have worked well together. We've connected on a lot of different fronts. And you'll see, if I look at his LinkedIn profile, I can see a lot of information about who he is, what makes him tick. So if I click on this, come over here, this would be like his Facebook homepage. So you can see right now, I've got his name. He's pushing Small Business Association of Michigan. He's pushing the Children's Health Initiative through Sparrow. But he is currently the CEO of Enliven Software. Now, you have a number of people, we'll look at the exact number, who graduated from the University of Michigan-Dearborn, who are on LinkedIn. Look at what he did post-graduation. How many of you want to be a CEO at some point? How many of you want to run your own company? All right? He's showing me the pathway to get there. So he started out as a lead developer at Slasher Technology. And then he moved up to vice president of Artemis Solution. And then he moved up to CEO of Enliven Software. You can see the career trajectory, how I get from the seats here, where he was at some point, to CEO of a tech company. We have 150 million pathways you can follow and look at that kind of information that way. Now I can also see some connective information. So before I reach out to somebody like who we say I want to develop a deep relationship, I want to know what makes him tick. I want to see the information that revolves around him. So I can see his personal website, his blog, his company website. I can see his Twitter account. If I scroll down a little bit further, I can see a summary, and he built this, of who he is and what he's about. He's telling me what makes him tick. So he's giving me the way to connect with him. Scroll down a little bit further, I can see what books he's reading. Blue Ocean Strategy is a great book if you get a chance to read it. I can see what events he's attending, so I can accidentally bump into him and position myself for an internship or a job. Scroll down a little bit further, and this is where I think it really gets interesting. I can see interests: basketball, cars, entrepreneurial. I'm a former editor at a national sports magazine called Affiliations Sports. We did preseason annuals for college pro football, college pro basketball, baseball, golf. It was a great gig. I was the college basketball guy. I love college basketball. This is like my favorite time of year. I could talk college basketball all day long. Notice that Boomy likes basketball. All right? Say I don't know Boomy well, but I want to get to know him better. How many of you have cold called before? How many of you have picked up the phone and called somebody you don't know? Try to position yourself for an opportunity, right? That's not an easy thing for anybody. What I have here is a way to make that cold call. Take basketball, for example. I can take a cold call into a warm call. I can use basketball as a connective point in the conversation that I have with him to open up the door. So it's just a way to use information to help yourself out as you're trying to prospect for jobs or opportunities. I also noticed that he's a member of a number of groups that are associated with the university I came from. These are your low-hanging fruit. If you notice that there are people from University of Michigan-Dearborn who have joined groups, you see that on their profile, they've just raised their hand to help you out. They've connected back to the institution on their own volition. LinkedIn doesn't force them to do that. The university doesn't force them to do that. So this means something to them. There's an emotional connection. They're more likely to answer the phone if you call to help you out because they understand who you are. And I'm going to go into that process a little deeper. But before I get there, how many of you have heard of a customer relations management tool, a CRM? All right. So what it is it's a fancy term to manage the relationships emanating out of a company. The biggest one out there is called Salesforce.com. I worked at a company called Gannett. They use Salesforce.com. What we would do is, as a salesperson, you would type in all of the people that you pitched a product and service to, and then say you left the company, that record is still there of the conversation you had with that customer. LinkedIn affords you a personal CRM, so a way to keep notes on all of your direct connections. And this is really good for the job search. I'll get into that for a second, but if I come up here, right here, there's this little notes section. And I can say something like, on 3/11, Boomy and I talked about starting a biz. And Boomy moves quick, so on 3/12, we started a biz. That 24-hour business plan was brilliant, so on 3/13, we failed. If I save this to his profile, I'm the only one who can see it. Boomy can't see this information. Nobody else within LinkedIn can see this information. I can start to manage the information around the relationships I have. Think about it from a job search perspective. If I reach out to Boomy and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. You think you might be able to give me some advice on what I can do? And Boomy says, hey, I think you should talk to Rob Brown or get him your resume. I can put that information here and refer back to it and know that Boomy was the one who connected me with Rob Brown, which opened up the door for opportunity. And start to manage the information around the relationships I have. So it's one thing to be able to do that, but if you click on this little button right here, view and edit contact information, I can go a step deeper. So, LinkedIn pulls in those first 4 areas: name, title, company, and email. Boomy actually put his phone number in there, his instant message, and his birthday. I can also put additional information in here, so this is the phone number that I put in for him. I can't change the information that Boomy puts in this. But Boomy can't see or change the information that I put into it. So if I have accentuating data in here, I can add that to his profile, start to manage the information within LinkedIn. Now, better yet, the more you know about the relationships emanating around somebody, the more successful you are to connect with them. So for instance, his assistant is Joe. I can save that in his profile, and every time I go to call Boomy, I can remember that Joe is the person that gets me to Boomy. I can personalize that call when they pick it up and say, hey, how you doing? I can say, hey Joe, I'm trying to get into Boomy, can you help me out? Opens up that door through personalization to create a connection with somebody like Boomy. Now, if you guys are like me, you don't want to do all of your networking in just one space. You want to save your information in a couple different places. So one of the neat things that LinkedIn affords you an opportunity to do, come up to contacts and connections again, scroll down here in the right-hand corner, there's this little export connections. I click on that. It opens up another page. It affords me the opportunity to take all of my content, all my first level connection information into a CSV file. That's a fancy term for Excel. So I can take all the information out of LinkedIn. And I can do whatever I want with it from there. So, I'm going to get into network statistics now, but I want to ask you a question. How many of you have heard that you have to network to find a job? How many of you can really define what networking is? It's like a nebulous term that people throw out. It means like nothing now. It's almost cliche. Oh, you're looking for a job? Network. All right, whatever. So here is my definition of networking. It's how you get from point A to point C utilizing relationships along that line. All right, how you get from point A to point C utilizing relationships. LinkedIn does a very good job of showing your virtual map, the relationships connecting out of you. So think about if you and I were trying to network and find out all the people you do and all the people I know and how to connect them together, it would take us like 2 weeks to talk and we still wouldn't cover everybody, right? This does it in one shot. So if I come up to network statistics, I have roughly 3,600 first level connections. I can start to see degrees of separation. I can start to see the relational map. So say you and I are not connected on LinkedIn, but you're connected to her, and she's connected to him. Once you and I connect, you become a first level connection. You become a connection of a connection, second level connection. You become a connection of a connection of a connection, third level connection. You and I join a group together, you can see everybody in the group. If you look, my 3,500 first level direct connection, my friends connect me into 798,000 connections of a connection. These are called weak ties. We'll get back to that in a second. Connect me into 12.9 million connection of a connection of a connection. Through the groups, I can see the profiles of 13.7 million people on LinkedIn and how I relate to them. That gets me into every vertical, every discipline, every Fortune 500 company, every country I want to get into. I can identify decision makers who can create opportunities for the people that I'm working with or for myself. You can do the same thing. Now, everything I'm showing you today is the basic level on LinkedIn. Do not upgrade. You don't need to. Learn this. Figure this out. Figure out how to help yourself by what I'm showing you today. But I want to take a step further on this. There's a theory called weak ties. Have any of you heard of that before? So essentially, your direct relationships, say we're a first level connection, these people are good, they'll help you out, but what's really important is who they know. Because this is where the opportunity is going to come from. Because if we have a good relationship, she'll connect you with me, and because you have a relationship with her, we will start to have a foundation to build a good relationship off of. That's where opportunity comes from. This is the one you want to focus on right here. 798,000 people. Now, it's one thing to see this kind of in aggregate. That's a big network. How do you make that usable? 150 million people on here. All right, let's start by segmenting this down. Who's the number one person you want to connect with in any company? No. Ultimate decision maker. I heard it. CEO. I heard, who said that? Somebody whispered it over here though. There you go. CEO. All right, so I'm using this as hypothetical. I'm not telling you guys to reach out to every CEO who ever graduated from University of Michigan-Dearborn. But if I pop up here, CEO, and do a search, this is in the US, 695,000 CEOs come up. Now, it defaults on this corner here to current or past. I'm going to go to just current because the past are abject failures. I'm just kidding, by the way. So, I can now see the 555,000 current CEOs who have a profile on LinkedIn. What's your common affiliation in this room? So, and we can do University of Michigan, I think, at all, because there is a tie between, say, Flint, Ann Arbor, and Dearborn. So if I were to go here, school, (3,270) CEOs who graduated from University of Michigan. Name a city you want to live in. Detroit's too easy. Pick another one.
LA.
LA, good one. What was that?
Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. That's awesome. All right, let's do LA. Actually, we will do Tahoe too. Let's see what comes up with it. All right, 90012. The only zip I can remember in California is 90210. Okay, so we'll take this out 35-mile radius. And I can see the 137 CEOs who graduated from the University of Michigan who live within a 35-mile radius of downtown LA. How quickly I just do that? I just took 150 million people into a level that can help you out with an affiliation you all share in this room with a location that you called out. How quickly I do that? Yeah. This is the bastion of Fortune 50 companies. They could build databases like this 15, 20 years ago and parse out information at this level. It's now in the hands of the individual. Every one of you can do what I just did. So you can start to source out the people at the level that you want help with. And if you see this, I can see the relationships. So if it says a 1, first level, direct connection. 2, connection of a connection. It says 3, connection of a connection of a connection. It says group, we're in a group together. So I can actually see the relationships that I share with these people. Pick somebody up there that looks interesting.
This one.
Natalie? She's got varied background. Oh, look at that. She is U of M Dearborn, too. School's so nice, she went there thrice. That's cool. That's kind of wild. But similar to Boomy, I can see really deep information about her, right? I can see who she is, what she's about. She gives me a good summary. She gives me experience. She's got a really, you guys should be soliciting her for money.
Yeah.
She's doing well. So she's got a BBA, MBA, and master's degree at U of M Dearborn in 3 different categories. That's impressive. I can see what, she's got a blog, so I can read what she's talking about right now. See if she's joined any groups related to the university. She has not, unfortunately. But I look up on the right-hand side. Remember I was talking about weak ties? All right, so this is a guy that I have worked with in the past at Michigan State University. I have actually done radio shows with him. Know each other well. Direct connection. You think if I called him and said, hey, I want to meet Natalie, he'd help me out? Probably. Probably. So I can use a relationship to get in there. But I want to go back to her for a second. And I want you to think about the information that's available here. I've got her name, I've got her title, I've got the location that she's at. If I were to take all of her information and do a Google search, do you think I'd find a phone number? Or if not, a phone number for her directly, a phone number for her company? Yes. What's the most effective way to communicate with somebody?
Face to face.
Absolutely. What's the second most effective way to communicate with somebody? Phone to phone. So I could use, say, LinkedIn to communicate through Thomas to help me out and connect with Natalie. Probably not going to be the most effective way to connect with her. So this is one of the things that I learned along the way when I was Director of Alumni Career Services. There are 4 major affiliations that will help you find jobs. We used to survey the people who were getting jobs and who they were connecting with to open up opportunities for them. These 4 affiliations will work for you. Number 1 affiliation that will help you out, they'll run through walls for you, are friends and family. Problem with friends and family is generally their networks aren't aligned with what you want to get into, or they're not big enough to help you out. So the second affiliation that you have, that you all have in this room, university affiliation. How many alum of U of M Dearborn?
Close to 9,000.
Okay, third thing, shared work experience. How many of you have worked before? All right, so there are people in there that you can connect with off LinkedIn that may be at other companies that you're interested in getting into at some point. Fourth affiliation is public service. Board work, volunteerism, community work. How many of you are in student groups? All right, how many of those student groups go beyond just University of Michigan-Dearborn and are on other campuses? So those are people you can connect with that have shared interests that you do. But we're going to play up university affiliation with Natalie. So I'm going to get her phone number, I'm going to give her a call. And before I get to that point, I want to prove how powerful university affiliation is. Think back to the high schools that you all went to. If a student from your high school reached out to you and said, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about what it's like to be a student at U of M Dearborn, by a show of hands, how many of you would take that call? If you don't raise your hand, you're going to hell.
Not from these countries, I guess I mean.
Oh, so, well, secondary school. Think about it at any primary school that you went to. Just anybody who's attached to you private.
All right, yeah.
This means something, right?
Right.
U of M Dearborn means something to you. It might be transactional, means to an end, trying to get a degree. It might be emotional. You feel connected here because of the people who work here, or because you know, the peers that you're relating to. But it means something. It means something to Natalie too. It got her to where she is right now. So I'm going to play off university affiliation. When I pick up the phone and call her, I'm going to say something like this. My name is John Hill. I'm a graduate or a current student of University of Michigan-Dearborn. I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about who you are and what you're about. So I wonder if you take a few minutes to talk to me about that. Now in that 2-sentence structure, you've done 2 very powerful things. Number 1, you position Natalie as the expert on herself. People love to be the experts on themselves. It's a conversation extender. It creates the opportunity to have more conversation. Number 2, you played into the intrinsic value of giving back to a fellow U of M Dearborn alum or student. U of M helping U of M. All right, very powerful play. Second thing you're going to do in that conversation, you're going to say something like this. How did you get into the position you're in now? Again, conversation extender. Talks about herself. Third thing you want to ask, what's the work environment like? How many of you are under the age of 32? Okay, so you guys are Generation Y. The beautiful thing about you is you like to try a lot of things. You're also really tough in the job market because you try a lot of jobs. So you stay for like 4 or 5 months, say, I don't like this anymore, and you go on to the next job. Frustrates us to no ends. I'm Gen X. But it is what it is. I want you to try on suits. I want you to try on jobs verbally, through the phone. If you ask her what the work environment's like in her company, she'll tell you. She'll be candid. She understands where you're coming from. It gives you an idea, is that a good place for you to land? All right? If you think it is, you ask what kind of opportunities become available within her company. So she's giving you an idea that some type of job might come up that you're interested in. Your end game here is to get your resume or your LinkedIn profile in her hands. If you get your LinkedIn profile or your resume in her hands, she's got 4 things she can do with it. Number 1, absolutely nothing. Does that hurt you at all? No. Number 2, she can share it with her network. Who are people like Natalie networked with? Thank you. Number 3, she can be sitting in a meeting and somebody says, hey, we've got this position opening up. And she goes, oh, I just talked to somebody from Michigan-Dearborn. They might be a good fit for it. You just tap into the hidden job market. Number 4, she takes your resume, your LinkedIn profile, sends it to HR. You have now become an internal referral. What do you think that does for your chances of getting a job in a company? Go way up. That's where the job search has changed. It's no longer what you know. It's no longer who you know. It's no longer who knows you. It's a combination of all 3. And this affords you some of that. Some of the offline principles are important as well. But I want to take you a step further on where the job search is going. How many of you have heard of a website called Simply Hired? A handful? Okay. So jump up here. I'm not advocating Simply Hired, but they do something that's really important for you going forward. They're an example of a website utilizing social networks and integrating it into their platform. Why that's important, I'll show you in just a second. So let's play off LA again. Look at the jobs that are happening in Los Angeles. Okay, so right now, 101,000 jobs in LA. And actually, I want to show Detroit for a specific reason. I worked with the state of Michigan on trying to retain and re-recruit alumni back to the state of Michigan for high-paying, high-profile jobs, entrepreneurialism, reinvestment in the state, because the state means something to me. I want it to be successful. One of the things that I heard from people even in Detroit is there aren't jobs in Detroit. Right now, there are 44,000 jobs in Detroit. So, I think just alone, this is scraped off public sector, private sector, nonprofit, academic websites. There are jobs here. But what I want you to focus on is this little IN over here. I'm going to click on it. And what this does is it connects to my LinkedIn account. And what you're going to see is I can now see the relationships in my network on LinkedIn that are attached to each one of the jobs here. That's a game changer in the job search because it makes my job easier. I can play off the best affiliation in those networks and see the relationships that I have with jobs that are listed. I want to take you full circle on this. So I can use something like Simply Hired. You can also do this on LinkedIn Jobs. And I can see the jobs I'm interested in. Find the job, see the best affiliation I have related to that job. Pick up the phone. That was called informational interviewing, which is what we were doing with Natalie. Have that conversation, get my resume in her hands, my LinkedIn profile. She takes it down to HR. I become an internal referral, which increases my chances of getting a call back. HR gives me a call. I find out the name of the person who's interviewing me. Roughly 85% of Fortune 500 companies are utilizing social media as one of their vetting tools, which means they're looking at your social media footprint. If that's the case, it also means that they have profiles on social media. So I take the name of the person who's interviewing me. I look up their profile on LinkedIn, and for the first time in history, I have the resume of the person interviewing me. I can play off the relationships, the connectivity, the information that's there, and it's perfectly legal. I checked. That's transformative in the job search. Transformative. Because you guys can now use data to put your best foot forward. You can use affiliations to make the best connection possible to open up the door for you. But it's all based on relationships and networks. So remember I was saying, build a quality network. It's really important for this to be a quality person, and I'm sure you are. Really important for this to be a quality person. Those 4 categories are a good place for you to start to build your network on here. For those of you who aren't on LinkedIn, focus on those first. And then you can kind of go from there. The problem with a quantity network, because some people go in here and want to connect with everybody and their mother, is that if I don't have a good relationship here, she's not going to get me in here. So, if I am going to be, and I'm going to take you into one other thing. Okay. So that whole process that I just took you through is kind of complicated, right? How many of you are going to remember everything I just showed you? Or talk about, right? You're going to think about that guy who's up in front of you in a hoodie and a sweater vest, talking very fast, and you'll forget some of the things that I'm showing you. So I want to show you an easier way to look at this and look at the information that's here. So I'm going to graduate from the University of Michigan-Dearborn for a second. I'm going to come down here, change my education. So the last school I spoke to was Harvard. I will ungraduate tonight, I promise.
I
Okay.
noticed you didn't ungraduate from Harvard.
No, I just changed it. I did. I did. All right. No, yeah, fair enough. A lot of flights in between. Okay. So now I scroll over context. Remember, this is where we started. All right. See this school I went to? It's here. University of Michigan-Dearborn is here now. All right. Just remember this as you're going through. We developed something that we call alumni. It is essentially a dashboard of all the information that you would want to connect with. All right? So this is University of Michigan, Dearborn. This is where graduates of U of M Dearborn live, where they work, and what they do. So let's go back to LA. All right? This comes out to 25 different cities. If I come down here, and the closest I get is Orange County. Oh, there it is. Greater LA. Okay. What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
What's that?
What do you want to do?
IO psychology. Industrial organizational leadership.
Okay, pick a category of what they do that fits close enough to that.
Consultant, going to consult.
Fair enough. So I click on this. Watch what happens. Where they work changes. When I clicked LA, what they do and where they work changed. Now I click consultant to reflect what you were talking about. And there are some of the companies that come up. Pick one of those.
Ernst & Young.
Okay. Which is a straightforward consulting firm. And I can select on this. And now I can see the one person that lives in LA that's a consultant that works at Ernst & Young that graduated from the University of Michigan-Dearborn. It's making your job search much easier as you go along. So you can see how I can start to use relationships in a dashboard like this to get where I want to go. All right. Before I reach out to anybody, though, what am I going to do?
Research time.
And take it a step further. Research there.
Company.
All right. So let's get into the company side. So I pop up in here 2.4 million companies. Oops. Okay, 2.4 million companies. I can see company name. I can see how many people are in my network. So I have 2,500 people in my network that work at IBM. My first level connections within those. I can see what jobs they're listing right now. So IBM has 681 jobs that are posted in here. I can break it down by location. I can break it down by industry. Name a company you're interested in working at. Any company.
Google.
Google. That's an easy one. Pick hard one.
Cedar Sinai.
So, in LA? LA?
One of your ones that came up in LA.
Okay. It's a hospital, right?
Yep.
How do you spell that?
Cedars. S-I, not A-I. S-I and then A-I.
S-A,
S-I.
Like the Mount Sinai.
like that?
No, A-I.
Like that.
There you go.
Hey! All right. So, you picked one of the most obscure things that I've had somebody from Michigan give a presentation, which is kind of cool for
One of my
this.
students works there.
It'll show you, well, and that's what's neat about this. I have 21 people on my network that work there out of the 3,378 employees that have a profile on LinkedIn. But there are also 9 alumni of either University of Michigan-Dearborn or Michigan State University that work there. So I can see either of those. I toggle back and forth. I can see a description of the company, so they're telling me what they're about, or in this instance, the hospital. I can see what people are saying within LinkedIn about Cedar Sinai. Scroll up on the right-hand side, I can see where they're headquartered. I can see general company information, click on their website. But what I want you to focus on, and we have this for 2.4 million companies, we're a giant database, which means we can parse out information in some really interesting ways. So I'm going to click on this little insightful statistics. If I click on this, I can see, and how this breaks it down is the blue category is Cedar Sinai. The green category are other hospitals based on similar size. It's based on a government designation called an SIC code. But I can see right now, they're very similar to other hospitals, which isn't a surprise. But if I scroll over a little bit over here, years experience. And the good thing is I see that it's about consistent on onboarding. But say Cedar Sinai right here only had 4% of their people who were 0 to 5 years, and the average was 9%, tells me that's a hard place to break into right out of college, right out of my university situation. It just gives me a snapshot of some usable information. And I scroll over a little bit further, educational degree, highly educated, no surprise, university attended. UCLA, USC, Berkeley, very Cal-centric. Think about the state of Michigan and how many University of Michigan-Dearborn or University of Michigan graduates there are here. There are very U of M friendly companies that I can start to look at this type of information on, find the ones that have a propensity to hire people who graduate from the University of Michigan system. They're my low-hanging fruit of companies to try to connect with. All right? So I can use this data to see things like this. If I'm UCLA right now, I know that Cedar Sinai is a good place to look for a job. Scroll down a little bit further, annual company growth. This is based on new starts on LinkedIn. So say I got hired by Cedar Sinai, I put it on my LinkedIn profile, I count as like a +1, which is a tick up. But say 2 people left the same time that I got hired, and they didn't fill one of those buckets. Now we're at a -1. So what happens is this blue line, depending on the new starts, will go up and down. So say a company you look at has a lot of people leaving, but they're not filling the bucket with new people. Tells you they might be in a little bit of trouble, right? It's not an absolute. All of a sudden I see another company where that blue line is going almost straight up. They're hiring like crazy. Might be a good opportunity for me to connect with that company. It's good timing because they're hiring. So scroll down a little bit further, I can see competitors of Cedar Sinai. And this is based on users. So these are users clicking on Cedar Sinai and also clicking on these sites. It's giving me the business competitive analysis. I scroll over, I can see the top 10. Scroll down a little bit further, I can see people who have changed their title, either been promoted or have left the company. If somebody's been promoted or left the company, what does that mean behind them?
Empty job.
There's a job. Think about this. I can start watching the company profiles of the companies I want to get hired in. I can start to see the people leaving jobs. I can play off a university affiliation, do that informational interview. I can start to position myself for a job that doesn't even exist yet publicly. You want to change the job search, you're using data to get yourself into a position that nobody else is getting into. Scroll up on the right-hand side. I can see the most popular people, most recommended here, I can see common skills. So if I look at these are in aggregate of the LinkedIn profiles of the users that work at Cedar Sinai. So say, I don't even know what some of these mean. NICU, that's infant care, right? Yeah, neonatal. So, but say I'm looking at companies around here and they're using terms, you're consulting, for instance, that lines up exactly with what you want to get into. Tells you that's a good fit for you. But say there's a company that you don't have all the skill sets in, but you're interested in, it tells you what skill sets to build and position on your resume or your LinkedIn profile to get in the door. Now the other thing I can do is I can look at new hires at these companies like Cedar Sinai. I can look at their profiles on LinkedIn. If I see some commonalities on how they're positioning themselves, what they're talking about, what skills that they're putting on, and I have those skills, but I don't have them on my resume or LinkedIn profile right now, I want to put them on there. They're giving me the pathway to success to get in there. They're telling me what is important to the company when they're hiring. Now I scroll up a little bit further. I can see where people worked before they went to Cedar Sinai and where they went after. So for instance, if I've got good relationships at Kaiser, I might be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you know anybody at Cedar Sinai? And they may know somebody, because there are a lot of people who have been hired from Kaiser into that company. Which again, just a way to use data. And then if I go all the way up to the top, I can follow this company and have all this information sent to me once a week in a digest. People who've left, jobs that they have right now, people who've been promoted, any changes that they've made to their site. It's doing my work for me. It's utilizing data to help you out. All right, so everything I've shown you so far is very data-driven and very one-to-one driven. Now we get into the component of Web 2.0, which is groups. So if I pop up here, I'm going to jump into, and forgive me, I'm going to take you to Michigan State University group real quick because I still own it. MSU Alumni Association right here. So there are 1.2 million groups. You can go into the group search later. You want to get into consulting, all right? There are thousands of people who are in groups together in consulting. So if I'm you, I'm looking in the groups, doing search for consulting, and joining those groups that are in the peer networks that I want to create. Because they can open up doors for you because they understand the industry you're in. If I'm all of you, I'm joining the groups that are related to University of Michigan-Dearborn. Because this is an alumni helping alumni situation, and this space affords me the opportunity to do something that will help me in the job search. I will give you this piece of advice. Do not ask for a job when you're connecting in these spaces. Ask for advice. It leads into the same place. So what you could do here is say something like, I'm really interested in breaking into consulting in LA, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. What advice do you have for me? And what happens is people are going to answer that. They're going to respond. Those people who respond, they just raise their hand to help you out. Those are people you want to network with. They've just taken a vested interest in you. Mobilize them and allow them to help you out. So within groups, focus on those two areas most importantly. The industry you want to get into. So I'll go back up to the search real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. The industry that you're interested in and your university affiliation. So one of the reasons I don't like showing this, I get beta tested because I work at LinkedIn now. Your group's area doesn't look like this. So I keep telling them, hey, I speak in front of people all the time. Don't do this to me. And they're like, oh, we can't turn it off. So you're not going to see this exactly, but the group functionality works the same. So Michigan-Dearborn. And you can see you have 19 groups that are associated with University of Michigan-Dearborn. Consulting. Or give me another category. What's an industry one of you want to get into?
Research.
Okay, define it a little bit deeper.
How about climate change research?
Climate change. So here you have a one that's climate change I care, which means there are probably people, because you don't get into climate change research unless you care about it, right? Means something to you, right? 3,700 people who are very similar to you in some capacity. Now we take it back now, and here's climate change jobs.
I guess it's more of, the question I'm having is that, so these are jobs, but what about, so a lot of students that are wanting to go to graduate school,
Yeah.
they're looking for that kind of research. How would that, so not necessarily like the employment opportunity in the job, but rather research opportunity.
Sure. So these are higher education research network, which would apply more to what you're talking about, which are peers that can help them build their research as they go along. The methodologies that they use. I mean, this is that place where you share ideas and concepts and ideas.
So if I
or
have
thought process.
graduate students that want to go to graduate school, can use LinkedIn and find places.
Yeah, I mean, these are not job specific. And that's the one misnomer I think there is about LinkedIn. Everything I'm talking to you about right now is job search specific, but all these principles will also work with business development, playing off affiliations and relationships, understanding the people before you talk to them and call them, researching the companies that you're pitching or presenting a product or service to. So this is both business development from a higher education perspective. I mean, think about it from a faculty. You're looking to generate funds, grants, right? One of the ways that you do that is by asking foundations for money. You have people who graduated from University of Michigan-Dearborn that work at the Mott Foundation. You can use this to identify those people, reach out to them, have a conversation to position the grant that you submit in a better fashion than you would if you did it blindly. So, profile. How many of you have heard the term personal branding? I absolutely hate that term because it makes it sound like commodities. But I can't think of a better one yet on what it defines. But I will tell you this. Your resume right now is very transactional. It is very one-dimensional. So it tells about the people that you have managed or the efficiencies you've created, the education that you have, the amount of revenues you've generated for a company, whatever. But it's a series of metrics. And at the end of the day, a hiring manager is looking at two pieces of paper, and the best metrics win. The best piece of paper wins. That doesn't tell me anything about you, right? All right. Resumes are important. It's still an integral part of the job search process. But remember what I told you about people who are in Fortune 500 companies and even going further down, using social media to vet people out. If they're looking at my profile on LinkedIn, this affords me an opportunity to accentuate my resume, put additional information that means something to me there. So for instance, if I look at my summary, I can see I've put, I believe changing the world can be more than hyperbole. I would never put that on my resume, but I can get away with it here. It's a value that means something to me professionally. If somebody, say a company or an individual, connects with me based on something I put in my summary that they relate to, that's a great foundation to build a relationship off of. So I can use this to accentuate my resume in the job search, because people are going to look at my profile. And I can really showcase the values that mean something to me. Now this is the thing. I know that some of you have not had robust work experience. We realize that as a university team. So we created something for you that I think a lot of you are probably unaware of when you're building your profile. You come up here to edit profile. And you go down here to this little add section button here. This allows you to customize your LinkedIn profile. And if I click on this, we built it with students in mind to add additional sections like certifications, courses, honors awards, languages, organizations, projects, patents, publications, test scores. You can see how this would work well for people who are doing research as well. So this can emulate what your experiences are. Your classroom experiences are valuable. They mean something. They mean something to employers, but up until this point, we didn't do a good job at letting you tell your story to employers. You now have that opportunity. Now, I'm going to jump into the home page real quick. How many of you have looked at people who have viewed your profile? It's like the most voyeuristic thing ever. I checked it like an hour ago. So, right here, I can see the people who have looked at my profile. All right? So I click on that. I get automatically upgraded because I'm an employee at LinkedIn. You'll be able to see the top 5 people who have looked. If you look every day or every other day, you'll always be able to see the people who are looking at your profile. But you can see, let's see, UCLA Alumni Association. Say I just flew from LA after interviewing with UCLA. All right, I'm here in front of you today, but today I see somebody from UCLA looked at my LinkedIn profile. What does that tell you? They're interested. They wouldn't look otherwise. Do you check up on people that you don't care about? No. All right, so it also works for business development. Say you pitch a product and service, or submitting a grant, whatever. I pitch a product and service to somebody, I see a couple days later, somebody from UQ Marketing looked at my profile, who I talked with and pitched a business proposal to, and they looked at my profile. What does that tell you? They're interested. So it's not an absolute, but it's a way to start to judge. This was never available before. You couldn't tell did they actually care about you as a candidate or not until you got that call saying, we're interested. You can now kind of see visually what they are thinking about you. And I want to take you back up to one other thing that I think has changed and transformed in the job search process. This little icon right here, and we hide it, which I wish we didn't, but we do. This little spyglass allows me to search all the status updates of my network, my 13 point whatever million people are in my network. So name a company. Go ahead, who goes here?
Henry Ford Health System?
Henry Ford Health System. Do they use an S on the, is it system or system?
I think they do.
We will soon see. Okay. Let's see if this, and that did come up, but let's see if this comes up. And most people are typing in health system. What you see here is I get to see what people are sharing in their network about Henry Ford Health System.
Okay.
This affords me an opportunity to listen in social media to help myself out. Now think about this. If I look at this on a regular basis, I'll notice that there are 2 different things that happen here. One, a lot of times companies don't want to post jobs out there because they don't want to get all of those resumes coming in blindly, all right? Or they don't want to pay. So what they do is they use their employees and they say, hey, we have this job opening up. Will you position this? And so sometimes here you'll see we have this job available at Henry Ford Health System. Do you know anybody who might be interested? It gives you an idea of some of the jobs that you relate to based on networks. But 2, the most important thing, if I read this on a regular basis, I can start to see some reoccurring situations they have where they have issues with communication or customer relations or issues with logistics. People are saying things about them that aren't positive, right? Now I can also do this on Twitter for free, even if you're not on Twitter, search.twitter.com. So if I do this, and I do this on a regular basis, and say I get an interview at Henry Ford Health Systems, I come into the interview and I say, hey, I've been following what people have been saying about you on social media, and I'm seeing some consistent themes around these areas. I have some ideas of how you might be able to fix some of these areas. You just became a solution provider in the job search process. What do you think that does for your chances of getting a job?
Wonder.
Nobody's doing that. It'll go way up. 1, it shows your acumen in the social sphere, which all companies are looking for right now. 2, it'll showcase that you can be proactive in a position that you don't even have yet. So, listening to social media, opening up the doors for you as well. By the way, on Twitter, if you want to amplify or continue to connect with me, I'm at LinkedIn John, LinkedInJohn. For any of you going forward who just want kind of a refresher on some of the stuff that I'm talking about, there's a website that we have, Learn careers.linkedin.com. There's an area for students. If you click on it, it's 6 videos. I think they run about 40 minutes, 45 minutes total. You can see this stuff again and again, and it's done by one of my partners, Lindsay Pollock, who does a fantastic job. She focuses specifically on career services, so she's great. I love to end presentations, and I'll take some of your questions if you have them, just giving you some anecdotes of what I've seen of success along the way. I'm a big believer in pay it forward. I'm a big believer in giving to your network with no expectation of receiving, and I'll tell you, karma has an incredible way of coming back to you. You can now help each other out. You can help students out that you're connected with, friends. Helping them will open up doors for you. And I will give you an example of somebody who I've seen through persistence land a dream job. I believe this is a directory of dreams. I think you can see the pathways that you want to get into off of this. It's up to you to start utilizing it and pushing it. But about 3 years ago, I was mentoring a student, just became close to him. He's a great guy. His name's Caleb Thornhill. He was a former linebacker at Michigan State University. His dad played in the early 60s, so they're like a legacy family. But this kid was just one of those people that when you meet him, you just get drawn to him. He's fantastic, just great person. But he was always trying to figure out the exact route he wanted to go into his job. And so we would just talk and banter back and forth. I knew he wanted to get into athletics at some level. He was getting his master's degree in athletic administration. I assumed he was going to get into collegiate athletics. And one day he comes in and he goes, I figured out what I want to do, John. I'm like, great, now I can help you out. We can get you directly going the way you want to go. And he goes, I want to be a player development coach in the NFL. And I went, oh no. There are only 32 of those positions. They change like one position every 3 years. If you look at selective jobs, this is about as selective as it gets. And Caleb's like, you've been telling me that we can do this relational thing and this will work out. And I'm like, all right, you're really testing me. So we go through this process and we identify in one of our networks that the player development coach at the Detroit Lions is connected to one of us. Caleb reaches out to him, says, listen, I want to work with you. I want to understand player development. I'm willing to take a year unpaid internship to learn how to work under you and learn what this position is about. Caleb was 26 years old at that time. He knew he was taking a risk. He was working kind of odd jobs to kind of supplement his income. He finishes that year-long internship, and he was highly successful. So successful that they offered him another year unpaid internship. And Caleb comes to me and goes, John, I don't know if I can do this. I mean, this is my dream, but I'm not sure if I can do this. So I go back to karma having a funny way of working. Miami Dolphins called Detroit Lions his boss, and they say, we just fired our player development coach. We're looking for a new player development coach. Do you know anybody who might be good for this? He goes, I've got somebody who might be good. He's young. He gets on the phone, calls Caleb, says, Miami Dolphins are interested in finding another player development coach. Caleb gets in his car from Detroit, drives all the way down to Miami, 22 hours straight through, buys a suit along the way. Hangs out at their player facility where all of the people who would be his bosses walk in, and one by one he positions himself for that job. He's done what is called a unique selling proposition, a USB. He's got his elevator pitch down to a science. Goes through, they love that he did what he did. 2 weeks later, he was named the youngest player development coach in the NFL. So, pay it forward. Last year, Caleb started a nonprofit called 4th and 1 with another NFL player. And what they do is they work with students who are in tough economic situations, mainly students who are student athletes in cities. They bring them to campuses, college campuses, and they work with a week with them on mind, body, and spirit. Caleb had me come and speak about LinkedIn to these students. They are 15 and 16 years old. They can't get on LinkedIn until they're 18. So I'm teaching them something that they can't even use. But he feels like they should be able to dream for what's in front of them. So 3 months ago, Caleb gives me a call and says, I'm flying you down to Miami. You're going to give a personal branding presentation in front of the Miami Dolphins. So that was my gift in this whole scenario. But the point was, he dreamed big and he went after it. You can all get where you want to go. You can get into the right jobs, the right situations. Don't limit yourself. There are opportunities out there, I promise you. That being said, I appreciate you having me here. I love talking on campuses. This is why I do what I do. I've racked up 85,000 miles in the air over the last, 83,000 in the last 6 months, because I believe in this and how it can help you. So thank you very much, and I'll take any questions you have. Good.
Group affiliations. I'm curious because I've been told in the past that the more groups you're associated with and affiliated with, the less power it gives to each
Yep.
group.
Yep.
What are your suggestions on that?
Yeah, so I think that you're spot on. I mean, I think what it does is you start to get dispersed on where you can spend your time and attention. Focus on the ones that you think are going to have the most impact on you long term. You can join up to 50 groups. I don't even belong to 50 groups on LinkedIn. And then even outside of that, one thing I will tell you, if you don't have a job in the area that you want to get into, you can create those opportunities. So for instance, I started a nonprofit in mid-Michigan trying to spur entrepreneurialism. It opened up a whole host of doors in areas that I never wanted to go into and I didn't follow. But just having that opportunity to do that, like you build a group for students who are interested in getting in consulting post-graduation, it allows you to start to strengthen and grow a network for yourself. So if it's not there, create it. Good.
Can you repeat your Twitter name?
Yeah, it's at LinkedIn, LinkedIn, JOHN, at LinkedIn John. Good.
What are some good things to include in the summary?
So a really good exercise that you can do to find out a little bit more about what other people think of you and how that matches with what you think of yourself. Say tonight, go home, and I'll leave this intentionally vague. Write down like 5 to 10 things that you think are a strength of you from a work perspective, all right? And then shoot a note to 5 to 10 friends and say, can you send me 5 things you think of when you think of me? Don't shoot it to friends and coworkers. Don't shoot it to family because they're like really, really brutal sometimes. So I've always steered clear of that. But what will happen is you'll see some similarities between what you say and what they say. That's your basis for a personal brand, because that's not only what you believe you are, but it's what they believe you are. It's kind of the perfect match. That's where you can start to build off your summary on, what your strengths are, and then you also want to tailor in your interests. And so it's a way for you to, don't do it in third person, by the way, either. And that personally bothers me. I don't know for other people, but I've seen people say, John Hill is an innovative, whatever, it's like, it's you. Say it's you, but I think that you also want to show people where you want to go. And so if you give them an idea of that's where your interest is, you enable them to help you out. Anyone else? Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, one more quick question. This is about people. Are there ideas being pushed out or opportunities for people besides just joining up with people and joining organizations? Are there companies or organizations, or let's say county government, state government, hey, we need to repave a road and we're looking for a team that can provide a successful bid that can help us with this? Is that sort of information being pushed into LinkedIn?
So are you talking about, so those type of things you'll see in the status updates, you'll also see within the groups. So there are actually groups of people talking about that kind of stuff.
But that would just be from a particular person, not from necessarily an organization.
Oh, I get you. So you're talking about the organizational aspect of it. Okay,
Right.
so MDOT, for instance,
Yeah,
could create a page on LinkedIn in that company's area.
yeah.
Those followers, they could then shoot out messaging to those followers and create a brand identity in that space.
So is that happening?
It
I'm
is.
sure that technically it can happen, but are companies actually doing that? Are organizations actually using LinkedIn to?
I would say the penetration isn't high yet, but I think that that's symbolic of the understanding of social media within businesses and corporations. So I used to work with companies to help them understand how they can listen or engage or enable ambassadors in social media. Most companies don't understand social media yet. And so their immediate reaction is to find ROI in social media, return on investment. And my kind of retort to that is, what's the ROI of a phone? Because what you're talking about is a communication platform. So, you know, I think we're still early on that. And by the way, everything I've shown you, that's my perspective on this. I hate when I hear people say they're a guru or an expert in social media, because nobody can define all of this yet. It's so big and so broad, and it's kind of rolling at us so quickly that I think it's hard to say that you know it all. But you've got my perspective. You will craft your own perspective. And I just wanted to give you some pathways that you could find success through. So thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.